Good Morning San Antonio starts right now.
Hello and good morning to you. It's Friday, January 12th, and I think it's going to feel like 12 degrees a couple days next week.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, be prepared for that. We'll talk about that in a moment.
We will, and we've got a traffic update coming up. But so you know how TransGuide puts those funny messages on the screens above highways around major holidays or events?
That's right. Well, they may not be able to do that anymore. The Federal Highway Administration isn't laughing at quirky road signs.
Yeah, they want to make some changes. The agency is apparently cracking down on what state highway officials display on roadside message boards. So-called variable message signs are designed to relay important information like severe weather or a crash ahead. But when there's nothing urgent to know, many states put up generic messages, often with a humorous twist.
Yeah, so they'll use something like used Yablinka message as an example from Massachusetts. While TransGuide here in San Antonio doesn't display messages like that, they do like to play on words in their messages.
And while some drivers appreciate the dad joke, so to speak, federal officials say others may not understand them or it may actually distract drivers. So the Highway Administration is actually giving states like Texas 2 years to remove pop culture references and humor from road signs.
Aww.
I kind of like them.
I like them too. They make me laugh, but I mean, not to the point where it's distracting, but I guess if someone for some reason didn't get something, maybe it would make them think about it.
And I know it's not for everybody, but I like the humor.
I like the humor too. Well, so something that happened when I was living in Austin was kind of funny, and it wasn't TransGuide, it wasn't TxDOT. It was somebody hacked into a road sign, and they're like, "Watch out, the zombies are coming!" And I drove by that. I was laughing. I didn't know what had happened, but I was like, "Oh my goodness!" And it was a big deal back then.
I've seen viral videos of stuff like that happening. Well, talking about the roads is a perfect time to jump over to RJ Marquez. How are things looking on this Friday morning?
Yeah, guys, things looking pretty good. A couple of my favorites, those TxDOT horns up, phones down every time UT plays against OU, and gobble, gobble, go easy on the throttle.
That's right.
For Thanksgiving travel. So that's a bit of a bummer, but some good news here. We are seeing pretty smooth traffic throughout most of the parts of San Antonio, 281 at Grayson. Shaky camera there because of some of the conditions, but traffic moving pretty good in that area. We are clearing out this crash that was reported on the northwest side, right there at Bandera Road and 410. So that was affecting the eastbound lanes at Evers Road, but you can see traffic now starting to move pretty smoothly through that area. We do have a stalled vehicle to let you know about on the far northwest side. This is the eastbound lanes of Loop 1604 at Lock Hill Selma Road, so causing a little bit of delays out there. Speaking of the northwest side, here we go. We're going to get some traffic trouble, some headaches for our drivers out there. So we've been talking all morning about this. We have a major closure there. I-10 and 1604 will both be shut down this weekend in this area as part of the Loop 1604 expansion. So we're going to help you kind of get around this for here. So we're looking at I-10 traffic here. Basically, anything from UTSA Boulevard to La Cantera Parkway, that's going to be shut down. So you're going to have to take the frontage road to get onto I-10 and get back off of it. Taking a look at the traffic there for 1604, traffic is going to be shut down from Vance Jackson all the way to La Cantera Parkway. So if you're going in both directions, you're going to have to loop around. If you're coming this way, you're going to have to come over to La Cantera Parkway and then get back on 1604 the other direction. You're going to have to come back around to UTSA Boulevard and get back on Vance Jackson. So it's going to be very busy out there. Make sure to, I don't think there's a TxDOT sign that could save us out there. Just basically the TxDOT sign would say, you know what, just stay away from the area.
Just avoid it altogether, right? That sounds like no fun this weekend. Yeah. Avoid that area if you can. And you may just want to avoid going outside in general because Mountain Cedar has gone through the roof this morning. This is the latest number, 21,920. We've got gusty winds. I suppose this comes as no surprise, but it is getting to a lot of people. Molds are moderate at 840, so that doesn't help matters. And Mountain Cedar probably stays elevated going into tomorrow. Here's one of the reasons, the gusty winds. We've got winds gusting 40 to 50 miles per hour in some cases. Right now gusting to 39 in San Antonio, gusting to 44 in Hondo, 41 in Cotulla, and around Bexar County. Look at Stinson, a gust to 53 miles per hour. That can do some minor damage. We could see some tree branches, trash cans flying around here. So know that the winds are going to be very gusty this morning. They will start to calm as we head into late this afternoon, but it probably takes until after lunchtime for this to happen. We'll see less in the way of wind tomorrow. You look outside, it doesn't look so bad, but yes, it is windy out there. And then we've got to talk about this Arctic air. Still arriving on Sunday. Wind chills will kick in very quickly. We think this is pre-sunrise Sunday, okay? So wind chills will be there starting in the morning and will continue throughout the day in the 20s probably. Then, what about ice? Well, the threat for some light icing now increases just a little bit. This is not going to be a big event, but even the littlest of ice can cause some problems around here, so we're going to keep an eye on that. And then how long? It's now looking as though some folks in the hill country could spend up to 80 hours below freezing. We're going to discuss this a little bit more too. Weather today up around 58 degrees, a lot to get to, much more coming up here in just a few minutes, guys.
And Justin, earlier today you posted on social about your trash cans getting away from you.
Yeah, it was gone.
In the high winds.
Down the street.
I love what this viewer wrote. Dude, you're the one who predicted the wind.
I know. It's my fault.
That's funny.
Yeah, rookie mistake. That's what I said.
Rookie mistake.
I put a comment on there as well if you want to read it, Justin.
Okay, I'll do that.
All right.
Thank you, Justin.
Here's today's 9 at 9.
The U.S. and U.K. struck more than 60 Houthi targets in Yemen overnight. It's in response to the group's attacks on commercial shipping vessels along the Red Sea trade route. Those threaten to drive up the cost of oil, gas, and other goods globally. But the risk of the U.S.'s retaliation could be embroiling it in a regional conflict not far from the existing war zone in Gaza.
The deep freeze blanketing Iowa is threatening to complicate caucuses coming in just 3 days, but Republican candidates are urging voters to come out anyway. Concerned many may stay home, thinking the results are already a done deal. The severe weather is already impacting last-minute campaigning in the state, with some candidates canceling in-person events.
It's a bumpy road to the Fed's 2% inflation target. Consumer prices were a bit hotter than expected last month, rising 3%, up 3.4% from a year ago. The latest numbers may delay the Federal Reserve's plan to start cutting interest rates. Higher housing costs made up more than half the increase.
Another factor fueling inflation, skyrocketing auto insurance premiums are up more than 20% last month from a year earlier. That's the highest annual increase in nearly 50 years. Analysts say part of the problem is the rising cost of labor and parts to fix damaged vehicles and the rise in vehicle prices over the last few years.
Investors are eyeing into the weak economic data. Yesterday's numbers showing stronger than expected inflation and labor market strength had little effect on Wall Street. The Dow up 0.4%, the S&P 500 down 0.7%, the Nasdaq up about 0.5%. Traders are now scaling back expectations about the timing and size of any interest rate cuts by the Fed.
Investors are jumping into cryptocurrency after approval of Bitcoin exchange-traded funds by U.S. securities regulators this week. ETFs saw $4.6 billion worth of business shares traded hands yesterday afternoon.
Grocery prices rose 1.3% last year. It's a well-deserved break from prices that rose 11.8% the previous year. A new wave of bird flu is causing egg prices to go up, but the price of lettuce and potatoes has dropped. Eating out is still going to cost you more, as food prices tied to restaurants and vending machines went up 5.2%.
Millions of furniture tip kits are being recalled. Those are the extra pieces intended to keep furniture from tipping over and harming children. The Consumer Product Safety Commission issued a recall because the plastic zip ties included in the kits can become brittle or weak and break. The New Age furniture tip kits were sold online and in furniture stores across the U.S. since at least November of 2019.
We are getting closer to our first hard freeze of the season. We have everything you need to know on KSAT.com, including the latest forecast from our meteorologists and stories on how to protect your homes and cars from the cold weather. Don't forget to download the free KSAT Weather Authority app for the latest info at your fingertips. And that's today's 9 at 9. Starting this year, schools in our area and across the nation will test their water for lead.
It's part of the Environmental Protection Agency's new rule to reduce the lead and copper in drinking water.
Now, prior to this rule change, there were no state or federal regulations on testing. However, Texas offers a voluntary testing program.
So our KSAT Investigates team pulled data from the program of schools and child care facilities. And as Lee Wallman explains, some schools have concerning numbers.
You place your sample and you just simply collect your first sample.
It's an easy process to collect water from different fixtures.
And we had prepackaged labels, envelopes, and you would just pack it in here and send it off to the lab. Simple as that.
Dr. Melissa Hill, a professional geologist and assistant director of environmental health and safety with San Antonio ISD, walked us through the district's lead testing process.
We looked at cafeterias, gyms, where they're preparing food, anywhere where water would be used.
The district is actively a part of the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality, or TCEQ's, voluntary lead testing program.
We've sampled almost 3,000 different samples that we had tested for lead, and of those, 96% of them came back below the threshold of 15 part per billion.
4% of the samples are above the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's threshold of 15 parts per billion. Some are a lot above. We narrowed this data down to just the drinking fountains. 56 drinking fountains tested over the EPA threshold on the first round of testing. Of those, 49 were at SAISD schools. Highland Park Elementary had 2 water fountains in the cafeteria test extremely high, one at 685.7 parts per billion and the other 277.2 parts per billion. That's 45 and 18 times the actionable limit set by the EPA.
This one has been permanently removed. It's no longer there. The other one, we removed it, and then we put another one, but it's closed off.
Smith Elementary, Mark Twain Dual Language Academy, and Pershing Elementary rounded out the top 5 highest lead counts found in at least one drinking fountain on its campus. While the district is taking mitigation efforts like closing off access to the fountains, some parents say they are still concerned.
I'm shocked. That's really surprising and a little upsetting. I didn't even know that lead in the water was a concern that I should have.
I was definitely very disappointed and very concerned because, I know the effects of lead and how they can be long lasting.
Ingesting lead can be harmful, especially to young children and reproductive aged women. The EPA lists behavior and learning problems, slowed growth, hearing problems, lower IQ, and hyperactivity as possible results of lead exposure. The American Academy of Pediatrics states no amount of lead is acceptable for school-aged children, and, quote, we should ensure water fountains in school do not exceed water lead concentrations of more than 1 part per billion. Diana Lopez, an SAISD parent who works in environmental advocacy, says it's important the district figures out where the lead is coming from.
It is important to be able to understand where the sources are coming from and to understand that if it is part of the infrastructure of the schools.
Based on the data that we've collected so far, it could be strictly from the fixtures, could be lead soldering.
But SAISD doesn't have an answer for that just yet. The district is currently in the evaluation stage of TCEQ's voluntary testing program. It's waiting for analysis of additional tests to see what concrete solutions are needed to ensure students have safe drinking water.
At least we know we're doing something about it. We're mitigating.
Statewide, Bexar County has the highest participation in collecting water samples to be tested. Now, in our investigation, we reached out to 23 school districts in 9 different counties. SAISD was the only school to grant us an interview. 12 districts didn't answer multiple requests for information. 3 others sent over information regarding lead testing being done. We have all the districts we reached out to and their responses on KSAT.com. There you'll also find the list of Bexar County schools and child care facilities participating in the TCEQ program. For KSAT Investigates, I'm Lee Waldman.
Thank you, Lee. 11 minutes past the hour, about 51 degrees.
Up on GMSA at 9 next. The Arctic blast is just a couple of days away. So when we come back, John Paul Barajas is going to show us how to properly protect your home from the freeze.
Our KSAT meteorologists forecast that Arctic air will arrive early Sunday with those freezing temps sticking around through midweek. So here's how you can best protect your plants. Since our plants think it's spring, many are blooming right now, but don't prune them back. The freeze will naturally kill the blooms and leaves, which will protect the plant's roots. Cover everything outside that you can, even your winter veggies, since this will be a hard freeze. I found that covering with cardboard during the 2021 freeze saved the majority of my established perennials, especially the natives. You can also cover with frost cloth, old sheets, or thick blankets. Stay away from plastic, it can burn your leaves. Potted plants and tropicals should be moved inside and placed near a window for light. If you move them into your garage for a couple days but fear they're going to need some light, invest in one of these UV lamps. They're not too expensive and you can get them on Amazon or at hardware stores. Cover your roses as a precaution. But if they are large and established like mine, for the most part, they should come back in the spring after they die back. These were able to survive the 2021 freeze. Don't worry about covering your sago palms. These will also come back like mine did after the 2021 freeze. Most importantly, give your plants a deep watering on Saturday before that freeze comes in. Here is the good news. Nature is resilient and you'll be surprised what actually survives and comes back in the spring. Happy gardening. I'm Sarah Costa, KSAT 12 News.
Once it freezes below 32 degrees, the water starts to expand just like an ice tray basically, and there's no room for it to escape, so it's going to stretch the pipe to the point it's going to burst.
Now, if you want someone to come out and wrap your pipes, you can definitely hire someone to do that, or you can do it by yourself. It's fairly simple. Just got to get yourself some thermocell insulation covering. Make sure you got the right size for your pipes at home. Then you want to make sure it just slips on there. Make sure everything's covered up, the way it's protected from all the elements. Nice and tight. This one here comes with its own strip seal, but you can also just tape it up or use zip ties to make sure it's nice and tight and nothing is exposed. Now, the other thing you want to make sure is covered are faucet bibs outdoors as well. You can buy big box store supplies to cover that up, or you can just get a hand towel or old t-shirts to wrap it up, but you want to make sure that it is completely wrapped up and covered. And then again, duct tape it, seal it down, make sure that there's no exposed areas and that wind or any precipitation doesn't get in there. So feel free to double up on the tape, make sure it's nice and snug. Now, when it comes to your pipes inside, for the most part, they should be fine. But if you have water lines or water supply lines on an exterior wall, it could be better safe than sorry, and you can also wrap your pipes in here underneath the sink. You don't really have to worry about the drains too much, but more so the water supply lines back here. So again, you just take your thermocell and you go back here, wrap it up, make sure it covers the entire pipe. Like that. Again, this one seals itself. Zip ties or duct tape also work. Technicians with Elmer's Home Services add, keeping your faucets dripping can also help by keeping water steadily moving through the pipes. And leaving cabinets where pipes are located open will let warm air circulate through there as well. As for firing up the heater, when you hear rumbling or something that isn't smooth, like a motor is kicking up, what should the homeowner do that?
Immediately at that point, we always want to recommend turning off the system. The main thing that we want to listen for is just make sure we don't have any squealing, anything like that. You don't want any loud, sudden noises, but you will hear the ignition of the flame, and then you will hear the blower motor turn on.
It's important to make sure windows, doors, and attics are also well insulated to keep heat from escaping your home. For more tips, go to KSAT.com. John Paul Barajas, KSAT 12 News.
As we go outside with live cam, we want to let you know that Governor Greg Abbott is holding a news conference this morning to discuss the state's response to the Arctic front that's expected to impact all of Texas next week. That's coming up at 9:30 this morning. It is something we will stream on KSAT.com, and we'll try to look in on that press conference a little bit later in the newscast.
Yeah, and that brings up a good point. If you're traveling this weekend, it's not just us. The whole state of Texas is going to be dealing with this cold air, and there is the potential for some wintry precipitation, especially as you go north and east of San Antonio. Some places like Dallas, even down to Houston, there could be some ice issues. So that's something you want to keep in mind if you do plan to travel this weekend. We got to start, though, with the wind gusts. Man, it has been so very windy this morning. We've got gusts close to 40 miles per hour still as it stands right now. 39 is the gust here in San Antonio. And we're seeing some gusts anywhere from 30 to even 50 miles per hour. That's the high gust I've seen, 53 there at Stinson. And you look at the peak gust, really anywhere from 40 to 50 miles per hour has been the norm. New Braunfels got a gust of 50, and we'll update Stinson because that gust at 53 now beats out the old peak gust that we had just a little while ago. So these numbers are still rising a little bit, but I think the wind gusts in general will start to come down as we head into the afternoon. You'll see less in the way of wind, especially by this evening. Right now, we've got blue skies. It looks nice out there, but it's blustery. 51 at the airport, 52 in New Braunfels, 54 Seguin, 45 still in Bernie and Kerrville. A little chillier there, and there's still a wind chill. So yes, the wind gust forecast, I'd say through about 2 o'clock, you're still going to see gusts up over 30 miles per hour, but they start to come down late this afternoon and this evening. We'll see much less wind tonight. High temperatures today around 58. Some places could get up to 60, but know that it will be significantly cooler than what we were looking at yesterday. Now let's talk about that Arctic air. We've been on this subject most of the week, but it's so very important. What we need to know here is that temps are going to plummet on Sunday, and hard freeze a certainty now Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday morning. Wednesday morning now is looking very, very cold. So we've got 3 mornings in a row. Now, here's the problem for some of us. I think in the hill country, we could be looking up to 80 hours below freezing. That can start to be an issue. And now the wintry mix, that threat increasing just a little bit. And I'll show you the computer model here in just a second. Current temperatures, well, you can see the cold. Negative 29 in Cutbank, negative 10 in Casper. Wind chill values well below that. This is a very, very cold Arctic air mass that is headed south and just spilling down the plains. Now we're feeling a little bit of it today, but that bigger surge comes in on Sunday. Temperatures are below freezing across North Texas this morning, but everyone rebounds above freezing later today. So let's look at the next several days here. Saturday, nice. That's the day you want to do your preps. 65, sunny skies, mostly sunny. We'll get down, though, to 29 Sunday morning, and that's as that front comes in. Honestly, temperatures are just going to plummet very, very quickly once the front arrives, and we think that'll be just before sunrise on Sunday. If we rebound at all on Sunday afternoon, I think we probably only get up to around freezing. Then we start to get some of that light moisture coming in here. There's a 30% chance of some light ice Sunday night into Monday morning. Will the impacts be huge? I don't think so. I think accumulations will be really small, but with it being as cold as it is, there could be some slick spots, and we want to watch that very, very closely, especially Monday morning. 31 on Monday. We don't get back above freezing. Wind chills in the 20s. And look at the low Tuesday morning, 18. 33 for a high on Tuesday. We will see some sun, so my hope is that we do jump above freezing for at least a little while Tuesday afternoon. Here's the futurecast. So this is the system that brought us the wind that moves away. Saturday, as we said, it's fairly warm. This pink line you see here, that's the freezing line. And notice it pushes south with the front as we get into Sunday morning. And then here comes a little piece of energy. It's not much, but it's enough to get some light precipitation going. And this is late Sunday night into Monday morning. It shows a little bit of that here around San Antonio and parts of east and northeast Texas through about midday Monday. We'll be keeping a close eye on it. Here it is laid out in the 7-day forecast. Again, nice tomorrow, but then we hit that cold air Sunday and it stays with us. Wednesday morning, down to 18. We do finally rebound on Wednesday, but guess what? We get another front by the end of next week that could knock us back down below freezing. We'll have continual updates throughout the rest of today and the weekend. We'll be right back.
There's a lot of talk about how cold Monday is going to be, but right now all plans are a go for the 37th MLK March.
San Antonio's march typically is one of the largest in the nation, and the commission chair said our march made the cover of the Wall Street Journal last year. The city event and its record participation is a continuous reminder to those who march and watch the march of Dr. King's dream and sacrifice.
Members of the commission are keeping an eye on the weather, just like all of us, and reaffirming that the commemorative events are happening.
Nothing in the weather suggests that we will not be able to hold the march. It may be a little bit cold, dress appropriately, dress warm, but come to march. Our youth piece, the wreath laying ceremony, all of those will take place at their designated location at the designated starting time.
The MLK March starts Monday morning, 10 o'clock at MLK Academy, located on Martin Luther King Drive, and will end at Pittman Sullivan Park on Iowa Street off of New Braunfels Avenue.
And that's where the annual celebration that includes food, music, and information booths will happen. For more information about the parade route, the closures, the bus services to the march, you can go to our website at KSAT.com.
9:28, 51 degrees. More ahead on GMSA at 9.
When we come back, we're going to be talking to some experts at Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union about how you can avoid scams this tax season.
Hey, we're just the messenger here, but it is time to start thinking a little bit about taxes and not just filing them, but filing them safely.
Randolph Brooks Federal Credit Union is working to help people spot tax scams, and joining us this morning to talk more about what to look out for is RBFCU Vice President of Fraud Management, Brian Munsterteiger. Good morning.
Morning.
Hi, Brian. Thanks for being with us. We know that impersonation scams are pretty common during tax season, but what are some of the ways or maybe new ways that these scammers are trying to trick us?
Yeah, you're right. It's definitely a time of year where they're going to take advantage of fear and urgency that some of us have around this time and reach out either via phone call, text message, email to use that urgency to try to get you to, pay for back taxes or something that you don't actually owe and, tell you that you owe money, that they're potentially could be lawsuits and, things that could happen to scare you around this time of year when actually that's not happening at all. The IRS will never text you. They won't call you. They're not going to send you an email. If that happens and the impersonator claims that they're coming from the IRS, it's definitely a scam.
And what about the person helping someone prepare their taxes? How can you make sure you are not working with a fraudulent return preparer? Yeah,
good question. I think obviously that's very common as well. We're looking for help around this time of year to help file our taxes. There's scams around that as well. I would say be careful about who you're paying money to. If you're paying money for someone to do your taxes, make sure you know if it's a reputable business or it's someone that you trust. If you're clicking on a link in an ad or in a Facebook type message and they're asking for your personal information, that's usually a red flag that something could be wrong. And another thing to look out for is if they're asking you to pay like through prepaid gift card or through a money transfer for app that you're maybe not familiar with, that could be a huge red flag as well.
Brian, how can we spot these scams on our phones?
Similar to other scams, the really big things to look out for are the phone number that it's coming from. Make sure it's coming from a legitimate text. They're going to come from a short code, the 5-digit code. They're not going to come from a full 10-digit phone number. If that's happening and there's a link included and they're really pushing the urgency, like I mentioned earlier, then that's a huge red flag and probably the number one thing to look out for. Same thing with emails. Look at where the email's coming from and look out for the red flags where they're pushing for the urgency and something that just doesn't make sense.
And Brian, can you also talk about RBFCU's recommendation for people to set up their tax refund checks to be received by direct deposit?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely safer. Unfortunately, mail fraud is still something that's very common, and getting your refund through direct deposit is much safer, and definitely something RBFCU would recommend.
Is there something we can do to help stop these scammers?
I think in general, remember that if you did not initiate the contact and someone's reaching out to you and they're asking for personal information, you should not be giving it. The only time you should be giving that information is if you're initiating the contact. That's kind of the overriding rule that we try to really press with a lot of these scams.
All right. Thank you, Brian Munsterteiger with RBFCU.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian. Have a good weekend. All right, we're checking back in with meteorologist Justin Horn, and he now has his suit jacket on, so we know it's...
Oh, he means business.
He does mean business today.
There's a reason why I got a spot on my shirt, and I was using the tie.
Oh, okay, the truth be told.
I'm not going to lie.
Nice.
I can't lie.
You look nice. There you go.
Thank you. So now the coat's on. We're getting serious now with these gusty winds especially. We've got some gusts now close to 40 to even 50 miles per hour. That's been the norm this morning. We've got a gust to 39 at the airport, gusting to 30 in Pleasanton, 44 in Hondo, gusting to 36 in Gonzales, and 40 in Victoria. So, it's a busy morning with these winds. Now, they will start to die down. You'll see them start to subside as we head into the next couple of hours. There's a little closer look at some of the gusts. 53 at Stinson, 30 at Pleasanton, and gusting to 36 in Gonzales. Here's our forecast. Noontime, 52. Still windy, but those winds do finally come down around 3 or 4 o'clock. We'll top out at 58. So a cooler day, certainly, than yesterday. And then slipping down into the 50s and eventually 40s tonight. It'll be chilly tomorrow morning, but that's just sort of the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. Arctic air gets here Sunday morning. We think around sunrise, wind chills will very quickly kick in. Any plans on Sunday, know that it will be very cold, it will be windy, and it's going to be that way all day long. What about ice? This is a question a lot of people are asking. What about the roads? Well, if we get any freezing precipitation, which there is a small chance for that, and the threat is increased just a little bit, that's going to be Sunday night, Monday morning. It would be very light accumulation, but with temperatures the way they are, we do need to keep an eye out on the roads for any slick spots. How long? Well, I don't know that we'll be seeing 80 hours below freezing here in San Antonio. I don't think that, but folks in the hill country certainly could see that, and it will be an extended period even here in town. We're going to have much more on this cold air. Again, how long it's going to last and what the numbers look like coming up here in just a couple minutes.
Thank you, Justin. Well, the Spurs are back on the court tonight and tomorrow taking on some Eastern Conference teams.
Plus, it's an action-packed NFL playoff weekend. RJ Marquez is back to break it all down.
All right, guys. Yeah, we got some basketball action. We got some football action. Things definitely heating up out there. Let's start with the Spurs because they are back home after that triple-double by Victor Wembanyama. Look at this baseball pass right there to Jeremy Sohan. Victor Wembanyama, the fastest triple-double, second fastest triple-double in NBA history the other night against the Detroit Pistons. Looking to repeat that tonight. They are taking on the Charlotte Hornets at the Frost Bank Center. What makes this matchup kind of interesting, guys, is that Victor Wembanyama, obviously the #1 pick in this past summer's NBA draft. The Hornets had the #2 pick in the draft. Brandon Miller, he's actually been playing pretty well for the Hornets. They're also getting LaMelo Ball back for tonight's game. So tip-off there is 7 o'clock from the Frost Bank Center. Now, about Saturday's game, the Spurs are taking on the Chicago Bulls. Interesting here, it's a bit of a scheduling quirk here. So this is going to be the third time that the Spurs play Chicago this season. And the reason for that is because of the NBA in-season tournament. So right now, the teams that did not go far in that tournament are having to make up some games. That's why we're going to get to see the Bulls twice now in the same season in San Antonio. Usually we only get to see him once here in San Antonio at Frost Bank, but that's going to be the case. So DeMar DeRozan coming back home to San Antonio there. So we got a couple of action-packed games there for the San Antonio Spurs. All right, let's switch things over to football action because we know things are going to be fun out there tomorrow. Out there, NRG Stadium, the Houston Texans hosting the Cleveland Browns. This is the first time the Texans are in the playoffs since 2019 when they had guys named J.J. Watt. They had Deshaun Watson. Remember those guys, DeAndre Hopkins? Those Texans players, they are taking on a Cleveland Brown team which has been on a roll with veteran quarterback Joe Flacco. So this is going to be a lot of fun. The veteran taking on the rookies here, C.J. Stroud, potential offensive rookie of the year. Will Anderson Jr., potential defensive rookie of the year, and of course, DeMeco Ryan, the potential coach of the year. There's going to be a lot of fun out there. This is a big matchup, big challenge there for the Houston Texans. They're starting off the AFC playoffs at home. All right, let's switch over to the Cowboys. All right, let's go real quick here, give you a rundown of the AFC playoff picture here. Dolphins are going to be at the Chiefs. They're going to be Saturday night under frigid temperatures there in Kansas City. And then we have the Steelers at Buffalo. That's your Sunday noon game. Baltimore had the #1 seed, so they get the bye in the first round. Okay, moving on to, how about them Cowboys? They are going to be hosting the Green Bay Packers in a classic playoff matchup. So many memorable memories, that kind of redundant, but so many memories between the Packers and Cowboys over the years. Of course, the Des Cottick game, no catch game. We had that one, the Ice Bowl. You remember a few years back when Dak Prescott's rookie year, Aaron Rodgers upset the Cowboys there at AT&T Stadium. So we're going to have Packers, Cowboys. The Cowboys, the #2 seed in the NFC. This game's going to be 3:30 there at Jerry World, taking on a red-hot Packers team. Interesting matchup here. Jordan Love, the Packers quarterback, his first time in the playoffs, taking on that Cowboys defense. Cowboys unbeaten at home this year. Interesting matchup that I'm paying attention to. CeeDee Lamb versus Jair Alexander, the cornerback for the Green Bay Packers. I got Cowboys winning this game by at least 7 points, but it's still going to be a real fun matchup there. Let's check out the rest of the NFC playoff picture. And we have, let's see what we got. Okay, Rams at Lions. This is going to be a good one here. Matthew Stafford returns to Detroit. Imagine how those fans are going to be feeling there, taking on Matthew Stafford. And of course, Jared Goff, the current Lions quarterback, taking on his old coach, Sean McVay, there with the LA Rams. That's going to be a lot of fun. And then our game on Monday night, the Eagles on the road. They're going to be playing the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the Baker Mayfield-led Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And maybe the Eagles can turn things around. Again, they are on the road here, now the 5th seed because Dallas jumped them late in the season. Of course, the San Francisco 49ers have the #1 seed and the bye in the NFC. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. Cannot wait for this weekend's action. Go Spurs, go.
Yes.
And how about them Cowboys? Cowboys,
That's
bring them a
right.
win here.
A busy
Cowboys
weekend.
and Texans, yeah, absolutely.
Very busy weekend. Some very interesting plot lines and subplot lines there.
Yeah, you know that whole thing about the NFL script writers? I think even though they didn't script anything here, but still some very interesting matchups. That game, guys, in Kansas City, that Miami, Kansas City, I mean, how do you even play in conditions like that?
That's so cold.
Well, yeah, if you missed it earlier, we were talking about they're saying the wind chill could be -30 for game time,
Nice.
Chiefs, Dolphins. All right, RJ.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
All right,
Have a good
guys.
weekend.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thank
9:42,
you.
51 degrees. You're watching GMSA at 9.
We'll be right back. Let's look out there with live cam and enjoy these temperatures now. 50s will be mild compared to what we will see on Sunday.
Yesterday was so nice, and I thought to myself, man, this is perfect weather. And I thought about wrapping some of my plants yesterday, but knowing that we're going to have the wind this morning, you wrap anything, it's just going to blow away.
You learned your lesson about being early.
Yes, I did with the recycle bin. Yes. So today's not a bad day once the winds die down and maybe wrap some of those plants. Tomorrow will be okay for that. And then, of course, Sunday is the day when that cold air really starts to kick in. So let's first start with the pollen count. Look what those winds did to Mountain Cedar today. If you missed this earlier, it's 21,920. Very high. It's just going to get a lot of people. Molds are moderate at 840. So if you're sniffling and sneezing like the rest of us here at KSAT, this is why. And I wouldn't, I would assume that numbers will be very high again tomorrow. So I'm just going to give you a heads up there. Winds the rest of today, they'll be in the 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gust range through about 2 o'clock, and then we'll start to see those winds calm as we head into this evening. But it's going to take some time. So still very windy right now. We're still getting some gusts, around 40 or so, even a little bit higher than that. High temperatures today, 58 here in San Antonio. We'll see 60s to the south, mid-50s in the hill country, so cooler than yesterday, but not a bad day if you take the wind out of the equation. But the big changes still lie ahead of us. Sunday, cold front comes through early in the morning, so right around sunrise. In fact, temperatures may get all the way down to 29 by early on Sunday. Now, we rebound a little bit in the afternoon. The question will be, how warm do we get? Right now, some of the computer models are saying 32, maybe a little bit warmer than that. I'm going to go with 32. Cloudy skies, wind chills in the 20s most of the day. Then we got to talk about what happens Sunday night into Monday. Weak disturbance rolls through. There is an outside chance we could see some light freezing drizzle. That in itself wouldn't cause a lot of issues, but with it being as cold as it is, we do need to watch for some slick spots on the roads, I think, Monday morning. And we'll certainly be keeping a close eye on that. 25, by the way, as we head into Monday. 31 on Monday. Wind chills in the 20s. Still cloudy. We clear out probably late Monday, but that will lead to some clear skies and very cold temperatures by Tuesday morning, 18. We may briefly rebound above freezing by Tuesday afternoon with some sun. Here are the Arctic area impacts. Those temps plummet Sunday. We just talked about that. Hard freeze Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday mornings here in San Antonio. And for some, I don't think this really applies to San Antonio, but I want to point this out that in the hill country, some places could spend up to 80 hours below freezing. That's a long time. And I know we're thinking about 2021 here. As I said yesterday, this does not look like 2021, but it will be a long duration for some of us below freezing. Wintry mix, the threat is increasing for that, but it will be light. And let me show you the futurecast here. Storm system that brought us the wind moves east today. That pink line you see there, that's the freezing line, and in this case, it's important. Once that front moves through, that freezing line pushes south towards San Antonio, and then here comes a little disturbance. It's not strong, but it's enough to kick up some light precip. This is starting Sunday night. And you see this pink color, that represents a little bit of a wintry mix. I think light freezing drizzle, maybe some sleet mixing in there is a possibility. As you go north, there could even be some snowflakes across North Texas, which means travel could be impacted up there too. But we'll be watching what's going on here. I think through about Monday morning, maybe midday is when we could see some of that light precip. And on top of that, wind chills Monday morning. Look at this. This is what it will feel like around 8 a.m. Monday morning. 12 here in San Antonio, 9 in Bernie. with those winds still remaining gusty, which means if you're heading out to the MLK March, know that wind chills could be in the single digits and teens, temperatures in the 20s, a slight chance of precipitation early by 1 o'clock, maybe in the 30s. With the clouds trying to clear out. But again, that sets the stage for some really cold temperatures beyond that. So we put it all together here, 65 tomorrow, but then there comes the cold. I will point out Tuesday and Wednesday mornings down to 18 here in San Antonio. Thursday we rebound, but another strong cold front looks to move through, and that could cool us down by the end of next week. So still a lot to look at, guys, and we'll be watching this all very closely the next few days, and we'll be updating the KSAT weather app often.
All right, lots of layers, especially on Monday.
Yes, as many as you can. Yeah.
Thank you, Justin.
9:50, 51 degrees.
Look out there with Zoo Cam. Who are we visiting? Whooping cranes. Okay, very good. They're enjoying the nice weather we're having right now. Be prepared, whooping cranes. It's going to get cold. Be right back.
Right now, we're going to take you to Austin. We're standing by, waiting for an update from the governor, Greg Abbott, and state emergency preparedness officials. We already spotted former KSAT meteorologist John Honore is in that building right now, advising emergency preparedness officials statewide about what to expect. Obviously, this is something we are going to be streaming on KSAT.com. We're going to monitor this here until the very end of our newscast. But put that together with the forecast we're getting from our weather team. Yeah. This definitely bears watching.
It does. And I know a lot of people are nervous after 2021, and it's certain, rightfully so. I don't think this is going to end up like that, but we are going to see some very, very cold weather. We've got to start, though, with the wind gusts real quick. The good news here, guys, winds are starting to come down a little bit. We've seen gusts to 31 recently, but that's better than it was. We had gusts around 45, 47 miles per hour a little bit earlier. These winds will slowly, and I do mean slowly, subside throughout the day. And by the late evening hours, you'll see those winds finally calm down. That'll lead to a cold morning tomorrow, 65, though, on Saturday. Tomorrow's the day to prep. It is the day you'll want to wrap your plants, wrap some of those pipes, because that front arrives Sunday morning, probably around sunrise. And from there on, we are going to be cold, cold, cold. Wind chill values in the 20s, potentially teens in some cases. And of course, your eyes probably focusing on that Sunday night, Monday morning time frame with the potential for a little bit of light icing. I think everything we see is going to be very light, but even the littlest bit can, we know on some of those higher flyovers here in San Antonio, can cause some issues. So we'll be watching that closely. The MLK March, obviously very cold. Temperatures in the 30s there. And Tuesday and Wednesday mornings down to 18. That is enough to burst some pipes.
And every hour that passes, we get a little bit clearer picture about how this is all going to play out, especially when it comes to the wintry precipitation.
Exactly. And now that we have some of our better computer models on it, we'll be able to time it out even better. So throughout the day, Mia's going to have more this evening, and certainly by tomorrow, we'll be able to kind of time out really specifically for you when we may see some of that.
Well, we'll be watching you closely, and we'll be getting prepared, but also enjoy the weather today and tomorrow while it's here.
Yes.
Have a good weekend, guys.
Stay warm, everybody. See you back here Monday morning.